Let's turn to diplomacy now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Laos today. It's a country that we rarely cover on the show. So first, some background. Laos is located in Southeast Asia. The population is around 7.5 million. It is surrounded by 5 countries: China, Myanmar, Vietnam, Thailand and Cambodia. And why is the Prime Minister of India there? For the India-ASEAN summit. You see, Laos is a member of the ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Sort of like the European Union of Southeast Asia. It has 10 members in all. India is not one of them. Remember, this is the India-ASEAN summit. And this year, Laos is president of ASEAN. So the meetings are happening in that country. Prime Minister Modi landed around noon today. He was first treated to a familiar experience, a Laos version of the Ramayana. Take a look at this first. Don't be confused, the Ramayana is quite popular in Southeast Asia. Many centuries ago, Indians travelled there for trade. They took the Ramayana with them, and when they settled there, the story spread. Countries like Cambodia and Thailand also have their own versions of the Ramayana. But let's come back to diplomacy for the moment. The Prime Minister of India met the ASEAN heads of state today. He talked about trade and business. He also sent a subtle message to China. He said India and ASEAN states are peace-loving nations, and that they respect each other's sovereignty.
हम शांति प्रिय देश हैं, एक दूसरे की राष्ट्रीय अखंडता और संप्रभुता का सम्मान करते हैं और अपने युवाओं के उज्जवल भविष्य के प्रति हम कमिटेड हैं। मेरा मानना है कि 21वीं सदी एशियन सेंचुरी भारत और आसियान देशों की सेंचुरी है।
The joint statement also opposes China. It doesn't name Beijing, but the intent is pretty clear. Let me quote. We reaffirm the importance of maintaining and promoting peace, stability and maritime safety in accordance with universally recognized principles of international law, including the 1982 UNCLOS. Now, to give you some context, UNCLOS is the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. It's an international agreement that was signed in 1982, and it is the basis of all maritime claims. And how is China involved? Well, China claims most of the South China Sea. They have disputes with some of the ASEAN members like the Philippines and Vietnam. In 2016, an international court rejected China's claims. And that verdict was based on UNCLOS. So by citing this law, India is basically backing ASEAN's position. It is opposing China's maritime claims. And this is recent. When the verdict came out in 2016, India merely noted the decision. But now it is openly supporting it. Basically, India is picking a side, and there are many reasons for this shift. One, because India faces the same challenge as these countries, both in the high seas and the Himalayas. The same problem of Chinese expansionism. And two, because ASEAN has a lot to offer. There are 10 countries in ASEAN. One of them is Myanmar. It borders India. Trade between the two sides is nearly $130 billion. It has doubled in the last decade. Even foreign investment numbers are quite impressive. ASEAN has pumped more than $500 billion into India. That's in the last 2 decades alone. For ASEAN, India is a good friend to have, a big source of tourism, a major player in the global south, and a compelling military power. In fact, military exchanges are the new frontier in this relationship. Last year, India and ASEAN held their first ever joint military drill. This year, India shipped its BrahMos missile to the Philippines. The hope is to sell fighter jets as well. And this is all part of the Act East policy, a plan to tap into the potential of Southeast Asia. We saw an example of that last month too, when Prime Minister Modi travelled to Brunei. It's a sultanate in Southeast Asia, also a member of ASEAN. No Indian Prime Minister had ever visited this country. After Brunei, he also travelled to Singapore, again an ASEAN member. It tells you how the Prime Minister is focusing on this region, perhaps even beyond it. You see, Southeast Asia can be India's gateway to other places, like the Pacific or the Far East. In fact, that too is on the agenda. Prime Minister Modi will attend the East Asia Summit tomorrow. It's basically ASEAN plus 8 states, including India, Japan, South Korea, the US, Russia, and China. Today, he met some of those leaders, like Japan's new Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba, and New Zealand Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon. Interestingly, US President Joe Biden is not attending. It's the second time that he is skipping this summit. Nonetheless, it promises to be an important one, especially because of the timing. China is stepping up its aggression in the region. They're clashing frequently with Filipino warships, so ASEAN states are looking for reliable partners, countries that will stand by them. As things stand, India fits the bill.
Firstpost decodes the U.S. election, explains how America chooses its president. Your primer on the race to the White House. Everything you need to know about how America votes and its global implications. U.S. Election Explained. Every Monday and Thursday only on Firstpost.